We're live. It's the X Files Retro Review. We are back, guys. We're trying to get back on a regular schedule after so many damn holidays and weird things happening here in Brazil.
Yeah, there's another one coming up on Monday, man.
I
I'm like, what the
know.
fuck?
I was like, yeah, I was not
Too many
happy.
holidays.
I was not
Yeah.
happy when I found this out. Actually, shout out to Jeff because my friend Jeff was like, "Yeah, drop by my house on Sunday because there's a holiday." And I was like, and I just wrote, like, I texted back, fuck, another one. And I think he thought I was talking about like another invitation to go to somebody's house. He was like, he sent me this audio message, like, man, like, we don't have to spend all day here. We can just do this. I was like, oh no, man, I think you misunderstood. Like, I'm not mad at your invitation. I'm mad because it's another holiday and I'm trying to finish work. It's like impossible to get anything done with a bunch of Monday holidays. It's like the worst freaking day to have a holiday is on a Monday. So yes, people, we are here in Brazil suffering a little bit. Um, it seems like it would be wonderful, like you get days off, but trust me, after a while, you're like, I don't need days off. I need to like finish work. But
Yeah, and
anyhow,
it's the last month we really get to make money here too before we have 3 months
oh,
of lean times.
that is another thing. So if you're getting paid for work you do, it sucks too. Yes, and I have this issue because I have a student that's only on Mondays, and it's like I haven't been able to get on a schedule with him because of these damn holidays. Anyway, enough of that because this is the X Files review. If you want to hear about Brazil, tune in on Monday nights at 10 p.m. and we will be here talking about our life in Brazil. But tonight we're going to talk a few interesting episodes. Episodes 12 through 16, we're going to talk ex cops and first person shooter and thief and enemy and chimera. Okay, so it goes from campy to creepy tonight with some of these episodes. And we're going to start right off with campy. And this is an episode that premiered on February 20th, 2000 to 16.56 million viewers, written by Vince Gilligan, directed by Michael Watkins, 8.5 rating on IMDb. That's interesting. I always thought this was an episode people didn't like that much. At least in the X Files groups, they shit on this episode a lot. Something is terrorizing an urban neighborhood, and Mulder and Scully are there to find out what, along with the crew of the hit television show Cops. So, all right, Pete, this is all you.
Okay, yeah, because I remember this when it first aired, and I loved it. And I was actually out talking to Phil about season 7, and he's like, "Yeah, X Cops isn't that one?" I was like, "Oh shit, I finished it, and I don't remember that episode." And somehow I just skipped over it. Like I used torrents, and I think I just because it doesn't have the episode titles in the torrent I have, it just has the episode numbers, and I think I was one episode ahead of where I thought I was, and damn, what an episode to miss because it's a riot. So, as the title implies, it's basically cops um, with the X Files, except they're
And
not
well,
following Mulder and Scully around. It actually starts following this cop around, and they don't say what city it's in. I mean, it's obviously shot in Los Angeles, so maybe it is. They don't ever really say. And it follows this cop on like a disturbance call. This is the opening sequence. And he gets attacked by a monster of some sort that turns over his car. And it actually, instead of having the traditional X Files beginning, it has like the cops beginning, but with X Files overtones. So right away, you know what we're getting here. It's shot in real time. I think it's the only other episode besides the one where they were on the boat that they did that with. So it's all shot in real time. It's all shot on video too, so it has like that cops look to it. But what happens is the monster turns out to be a werewolf. So Mulder and Scully show up to investigate, and I think one of my favorite things about this episode is their different reactions to being on this reality show.
Hmm.
Scully's pretty no nonsense. She's kind of exasperated by it. She hates having the cameras there the whole time. Mulder is a total whore for the camera, and you see these types of guys ops who are just like, they're looking at the camera the whole time. They're talking about themselves, what they do, and I think Mulder's motivation for this is that he thinks that this is going to be his vindication. He's on TV now. He's not going to be a joke. Scully's just afraid about looking foolish. She's kind of embarrassed about the whole thing.
Yes,
Anyways,
yes.
as they follow their monster, they, they find out that everybody has seen something different. Originally, they're looking for a werewolf, and Mulder's straight face like tells it to the other cop. They're probably looking for a werewolf. And the funny thing is, the cop that they're originally filming, he's like, wow, I'm on TV and I'm working with the FBI. These guys are rock stars. So
Hmm.
if they say it's a werewolf, I'm going to go along with that. So he kind of bonds with Mulder a bit. But as they investigate, they get different descriptions. This one lady describes the monster as being Freddy Krueger,
Hmm.
and as they get these different descriptions, they start to realize that what they're after here is an entity that changes into whatever that person fears the most, which
It's
is
like,
kind of a cool concept, just as a story.
mhm.
Yes, yes. And actually, one of my favorites is when Scully's doing the autopsy, and the other cop or technician mentions the hantavirus, and you can tell she's a bit germophobic, and then she
Hmm.
starts to freak out, and she's like instantly dead of the hantavirus, which is funny because it's the second time they've mentioned the hantavirus
Hmm.
in the X Files. They mentioned it in the movie as well. But yeah, that's what it is. There's no real resolution, actually. The monster just kind of goes away. Um, but it's got a lot of humor. It's shot really well. And it does do a nice job of blending the two concepts together because I know a lot of people nowadays in more woke times think, cops is terrible. It glorifies police being assholes and shit. But the awesome thing about Cops was that like it was on all the time. And back in the days before Netflix, if you just wanted to like turn on the tube and watch something mindless for like 90 minutes or even 2 hours, you could totally kill time watching Cops. So it kind of reminded me of that as well. But yeah, great episode, great parody, really funny as well. One of the high points of season 7 for me.
Yeah, I'm looking at something kind of weird here. I don't remember this scene. After the incident is over, Scully expresses her sympathies to Mulder. That being filmed by a national TV crew did not. Oh, okay, never mind. There's something weird in the X Files wiki where it says that she wakes up and it's all a dream, but that didn't happen. I think somebody just put that in there. Anyway, I'm with you. This is one of the highlights of season 7, which is not the best season of the X Files. Um, kind of tries a little bit too hard at times to capture the humor and the creepiness of earlier seasons, but usually misses the mark. But this one is right on. And it's the ultimate crossover because, Cops was a huge hit for Fox and it ran forever. I think it finally went off there, well, like maybe
Hmm.
5, 6 years ago because folks were just complaining,
No, not that long ago. Not that long ago.
Yeah, it
Very
would have been
recently.
sooner. It would have been
I
sooner,
think
right?
it actually, no, like 2019, I think it was on.
Oh, closer to now. Okay. Yeah, no, I mean it's not the best time to have a show called Cops, given all
Yeah,
the
exactly.
shit happening with the police in America. But I used to watch Cops too. I mean, it's just a staple of 90s television is Cops. And it's cool that Fox always tried to do their little crossovers. I know Mulder and Scully were on The Simpsons at some point too. So kind of
Yes.
cool. And I always I kind of feel dirty for loving it this episode because it's such a campy mess and it's so full of the usual X-Files stereotypes. Like that gay couple is too much, like it's like good lord, like how
Yeah.
much can you stereotype, but it's so well
I thought
done.
they
It's
were
so
funny, actually.
no, it's great. Um but yes, the best part is the way Scully reacts to being on this show versus Mulder, and she's like, Mulder, this could ruin your career, and he's like, what career? Like I have an office in a basement. Um
Yeah.
and Mulder's just like Pete said, he's like, this could be my vindication because we could catch an X Files live on live. Well, it's not live, but like on taped, real time television, and finally people will know. And it's like, what? But it had been a while since I'd seen it, so I forgot, because I thought it was just a werewolf, and then I was getting all confused, like, wait, how come she's seeing this? She's seeing that. And then it is a cool concept that it's almost like where it can transform into whatever frightens you the most, or whatever whatever can scare you. So it's a cool concept, well filmed, real fun episode. And just Scully, just shutting the door on the cameraman's face all the time and get out of my face and all this stuff
Yeah.
is really great. And it just kind of, the end is just sort of, this full moon is over. I hate episodes like this because it's like, okay, but I guess will there be another full moon? We could go back to this. It feels like there's no resolution. That's the only thing I don't like about it. But other than that, it's a 4-star episode for me. Real classic guilty pleasure in the X Files, just kind of fucking around with uh, you know, their own mold. So I like it. I like
Yes.
it. I like it. I was surprised too when I was talking to Pete. I was like, "Wait, did you skip X Cops? How can you skip X Cops?"
Yeah.
Because it's such a weird episode. Uh, and folks that are watching, on the X Files groups, you do get a few people that are watching the X Files for the first time. I don't know if they understand, the cultural impact that was Cops, and why this was such a big deal, this mega crossover event. But cool episode. Um, and continuing with the campiness and the wackiness, get another episode that I was curious to see again because I couldn't remember if I liked it or not. And it's first person shooter. And you know what? This episode is like half and half for me, guys. This one premiered on February 27th of 2000 to 15.31 million viewers. Written by William Gibson and Tom Maddox, directed by Chris Carter with a 6.5 rating on IMDb, and Mulder and Scully lock and load with the Lone Gunman to
Yes.
experience what appears to be a killer video game. Now, I've said a few times on this podcast that when the X Files tries to do tech, or anything dealing with virtual reality stuff like that, not usually the best episodes. This goes all the way back to Ghost in the Machine. It just it's those episodes that date. It really dates the show. I think the only one I kind of dug, I can't remember the name now, but the one where the what's the one, Pete, where there's this girl that's leading them to like this AI, this computer program that's become sentient, and then
Oh, yes, that was Kill Switch, and that was
kill
written by
switch.
the same. That was written by the same guys who wrote this episode.
Oh, you're kidding
William
me!
Gibson and Tom Maddox. Yeah, they wrote
There
that
you
as
go.
well.
So that's their thing. I thought Kill Switch was a little bit better than this, but basically, what's happening is that these three young geeks, are all amped up, ready to fight in this. It's what it's going to be meta in a in a couple of years, where
Yeah.
Zuckerberg or Zuckerman, whatever, is trying to turn Facebook into uh, Ready Player One style. They go into this virtual reality and they go in there and shoot them up. Except that they get to this one level where there's this vixen, this hot girl called Maitreya, and she executes them, and they actually die. The thing is that she was never programmed into the game. Apparently, we find out different later, and she kills them. So now we have an issue because they're just about this game is about to go out to the market, and they need to figure out what happened. And Langley, uh, the Lone Gunman are called in, and they are invested in this game. And Dana, Scully, and Fox Mulder arrive, to find out what's going on. And this is kind of interesting. This part for me was, was kind of cool up to this point, or maybe even up to the point where that the original OG comes in, legendary gamer Daryl Musashi
Hmm.
arrives to try to go into the game and beat this girl Maitreya, find out what's going on, and he gets killed, which is really cool, by the way. He's gonna die, but the way he gets killed in the game by this
Yeah.
Maitreya man, like chopping off his hands and all that stuff, is really cool. Um, but while all this is going on, one part of this episode that I liked is Scully not being able to handle all the teenage vibes, because Mulder gets all into it, the Lone Gunmen are all into it, and the video game girl is hot as hell. So they're having like this super, they're all going into their teenage years again. Um, and so Scully's like, you know what? I'm just gonna go do autopsies and let you boys do your thing. I thought that was pretty funny. So then we start to find out that this girl was actually fashioned after somebody. It's this prostitute called Jade Blue Afterglow, and that was a funny scene where they
Hmm.
called her in, and all the cops are all hot for her. Mulder's hot for her. They're trying to interview her, and Mulder's like, Miss Afterglow, could I ask you some questions? Um, but anyway, um, then we start to get into what's going on with this game, because there's this girl that works with these two boys that programmed the game, and her name's Phoebe. And you notice throughout the episode that Phoebe's, she's got something going on. She's very quiet. She's always, um, you know, got this weird look on her face. And we find out that Phoebe actually programmed a girl into this game just to give it some girl power. Okay.
No, she didn't program her into the game. She created her for a separate project.
Oh, you're
But
right. You're right.
yeah,
Yeah, she's
she
Scanned the
worked
Woman
her
and was
way
making
into
her
the
own
game.
separate game. You're right. But somehow her creation jumped programmed on its own, and now is feeding off the male aggression of the boys' game and becoming invincible. Uh, so that's kind of the weird techie X Files there. So what's going on is that Mulder's got to get in this game to try to find this Maitreya and take her down. But the game is it's become alive to the point where that's kind of like a cool concept where when he's inside the game, like the game disappears and Mulder disappears with the game. You're like, what happened? Like whatever that little hollow deck, if you're a Trek fan, whatever that thing that they're inside that creates the virtual environment, it's gone. And Mulder's gone. So, and Scully's outside, and it's like, trying to save him, and that's where for me the episode just it gets too campy, too silly. Where, I mean, it's cool to see Scully figure out a way to get into the game, which they don't really explain exactly how she's able to get in if the game's disappeared. But she enters the game to save Mulder from 5 gunslinger Maitreya's, and she does so by shooting away.
Yeah.
Uh, and then outside the game, we find out that there's a kill command written to the base code, and it becomes this thing of like, you got to hit the kill switch. Don't hit. I can't do it. Duh. It's like, I don't care. It got kind of boring by the end, but I don't know, man. It was stupid, but it was entertaining for about 20 minutes. And then at the end, they try to put this weird Mulder voiceover to try to make the episode deeper than it is, and it's really not. I hate these voiceovers. It's like one of my least favorite things in the X Files. Um, and is there a Scully bot in the end? Like, did somebody scan Scully and make a bot out of her? I think I picked that up towards the very end. But that's basically what it is. Oh yeah, yeah. Scully's face appears for Maitreya's in the place of Jade Blue Afterglow's face. So there's a little bit of that going on, and I don't know, Pete. Not my favorite episode. I gave it like a 2.5. I mean, it had everything to kind of go X Cops level of just out there campy. And yes, it's cool to see Mulder and Scully, shooting machine guns and stuff, but it gets old fast. I'm like, let this be over. So I gave it 2.5.
All right. I love this one actually. I think this is one of the better season 7 episodes. One of the better late season episodes in general. It's also one of the most expensive. Apparently,
Mm.
it's almost went over budget because I mean they got some pretty outlandish virtual reality special effects going on in this. Like the game world looks pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and actually, I was watching because I finished the series on Monday, and I'm probably not going to be able to get into the movie till the weekend. So I've been watching some of the DVD extras, and they did a lot on this, which really kind of resonated with why I like it. One of the things was the Lone Gunman. They were hilarious in this because, like, for them, this is like a total playground. Like, they're gonna get
Mm.
to, carry guns and shoot them up and shit. And actually, they this was the joke. They didn't get to do any of that. As soon as they entered the game, the chick is like out to get them, and they basically pee their pants, and Mulder has to come help them. So
Yeah,
they finally get the chance to be the cool guys, and they totally fucking blow it.
yeah.
That was a really funny joke. Also, the chick, they had an interview with Chris Carter where he says like, the X Files, like we deliberately didn't cast women who look like that in our show. We cast like real looking women, and like just for once, this story called for it to cast like some like totally outlandish like model level looking good, and they had a lot of fun with that. Apparently, he said the scene where she does the Sharon Stone bit, where she crosses her legs. He said they shot that about 20 times. He's like, she's an expert at shooting crossing her legs by now, and it was funny because, like, yeah, she is like, wow, like you don't see chicks like that every day. So that was cool. I like where the character came from because it wasn't just a side project. She like was the only woman working in this like really macho all male environment, and she created this character, basically this project, as an outlet just for being around all this testosterone. It was just something, for her to do something feminine in this male environment. But for her frustration, they don't explain how this happened because there's no logical explanation for it. But it's kind of hinted that like her alienation as a woman got projected onto this character, which is what gave it life and led it into this other environment. The fight scene at the end was really cool with Scully going all gung ho, Mulder
Yes,
looking
that
like
is true.
Sean Connery out of Zardox or whatever that movie is. Their costumes were outrageous. And what else? What else? else. There was something else I really dug about this, but it's kind of escaping my mind. Oh yeah, Scully, just like totally in disbelief at what overgrown children, like all the men are, like typical, woman in her 30s who doesn't understand video games. And I mean, I don't want to stereotype because I know a lot of girls who love video games. My ex loved video games, but yeah, I know a lot of women just don't get it. Scully is that woman, although she does get into it in the end.
In the end, to save Mulder, and she'll
Yeah, but
get
she
into
turns out
anything to
she
save
gets
her
off
man.
on it though.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. It's true. She does get off on it, but she'll do anything for her man, Mulder.
Yeah.
She'll get anything. She'll do anal. Uh, you know, because it's Mulder. Yeah, all right. I mean, I didn't hate the episode. It was entertaining enough. Like that's but it's just one that it just kind of loses steam from it. Like there's good bits in it, but it all just doesn't come together as well as some other episodes. It's kind of like full of cliches and uh, well, they went for it at least. So we got rid of the campy. So let's go into the creepy. We got a few creepy back to back to back episodes here. The first is Thief.
Yes, with two E's, that is important.
With two E's. And where is it? I just had it up here. Research that. Oh yeah, I love this dude. Okay, so Thief is an episode written by Vince Gilligan, John Chabon, and Frank Splitton. It's three guys on this one. Premiered on March 12th, 2000 to 11.91 million viewers. So that's a big drop in viewership. An Appalachian man seeks revenge against a doctor whom he believes has wronged him by using horrific, arcane technique similar to voodoo. That's badly written. The man is using the voodoo, not the doctor using it against the man. So it's got a 7.6 rating on IMDb. And what do you think of this little episode?
Yeah, it's a little south of okay. It's not terrible, but it definitely kind of barely held my interest. So basically, the setup, the opening scene is we got this doctor and his family, and the there's a mysterious death in the family. I believe it is the doctor's father-in-law, and he is found hanging from the ceiling, apparently having slit his throat. So he apparently slit his throat and then hung himself and wrote thief on the wall in his own blood. So this is why it's an X file. It looks like a straight up suicide, except for the fact that he wrote his name on the wall in his own blood. He misspelled the word thief. And who the fuck slits their own throat and hangs themselves?
Mm.
And yeah, the clue there is graveyard dirt in his bed. So Mulder instantly makes the leap that he was hexed. Um, so as they start to investigate here, it turns out that the target was not actually the dead guy who was the doctor's father-in-law. It's the doctor himself. And we see pretty early on who the guy after him is. He is a country hillbilly. So this is why he can't spell thief, because all Southern people are stupid and ignorant and marry the cousins.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
basically the underlying tone of this.
yeah.
So he's just a simple countryman, but like all country people, he also knows black magic, and he goes after his family. rather than the doctor. His wife comes down with like a skin eating type Ebola virus as a
Yeah.
result of this voodoo doll. The thing with the voodoo dolls is they're activated by special graveyard dirt. But once they're stuffed with that dirt, he can like basically do anything to anybody with it. And yeah, he winds up killing the doctor's wife by putting the voodoo doll in a microwave, which like kills her heart.
Mm-hmm.
So why is he doing this? Because the his daughter was in a really bad bus accident and she was badly burned and she was one of the doctor's patients and there was like nothing he could do for her. So he gave her an overdose of morphine to basically ease her pain and help her die a little more quickly. And Mr. Appalachian Mountain Man is convinced that you know uh, she would have she would have been fine, and he killed her. So it all culminates in probably the only really good scene uh, in the episode, because what they do is when they figure this out, they figure out that he's taking dirt from his daughter's grave, and that's what's giving his voodoo dolls the power. So they attempt to exhume the body, but the body's already gone. So this guy's carrying around his his daughter's corpse and the graveyard dirt
Well, not the
to
not not the corpse, just the head. They find the body, but he's carrying the head.
no, in the grave there's no body. They eventually find the rest of the body in his apartment, but he's still carrying the head around because they track him to his apartment. That's where they find the rest of the body, but the
Okay,
head.
yes. But the
So
head, I
yeah,
think, is what's giving him that extra little oomph because he's got to keep some part of the body around. Oh yeah, you're right. There's no
yes,
body inside. But the head's going.
yes,
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 yes, yes.
yes. So it culminates in actually what is a pretty good scene where they they're in hiding. Scully's protecting them. The doctor and his daughter, and our bad guy here, our hillbilly boy, just goes voodoo nuts, man. He's doing like all kinds of shit to this. He makes Scully go blind,
Yes.
um, and he basically gives the doctor a heart attack. And the doctor actually he reasons with him, which is kind of inexplicable because he seems beyond all reason. But he basically tells him that hey, you're guilty, that you failed your daughter. It's not my fault. I did everything I could for her. And he kind of has a change of heart, at which point he restores Scully's vision, and she thanks him for that by shooting him. And that's pretty much the end. Um, so, number one, we've seen the voodoo thing done now a couple times.
Yes.
Um, this is kind of mid range of that. It's not the worst, it's not the best. Um, really, I mean, I understand there's a reason where all these stereotypes of Southern people come from. It just didn't feel like in this particular episode that it fit with the rest of it. Like, I don't really associate Appalachian mountain men with voodoo. You know, I associate them with superstition a bit, but not actually being able to do black magic. So I don't object to them making fun of Southern people. There's a lot of contexts where that's very appropriate. It just didn't fit here.
Yeah. When we just had the weird Southern people with the snake episodes,
Right.
um, so it's the X Files has never been too good with getting these when they go into a culture and try to say, hey, yeah, this is kind of like not your Western white culture, so we'll just give them some weird things to do. That's very X Files. But You know what though? I kind of like this episode though. I see all the stuff that you said, and I kind of agree with it. But at the same time, it kept me interested enough, and I think mainly because of, and rest in peace, our man Billy Drago, who he was like the henchman in every fucking movie from like the '80s and stuff. You know, that face you recognize from something. Like I'm on his IMDb page. He's got like a movie every damn year. You know, and all these movies
Right.
that probably will never remember. You know, Hero and the Terror, The Untouchables. He was in The Untouchables. The Wizard, Hunter's Blood, True Blood, Prime Suspect, Delta Force 2, you know, he was being killed by James Bronson. James Bronson. Not Charles Bronson. What's his name? Chuck Norris. That's what I meant to say. He was in Tremors. He was in The Hills Have Eyes. You know, so and he just got that weird face that kind of typecasts him. He doesn't need much makeup to look kind of freaky and a cool actor. So I think it was him. Like for me, he just brought back good memories of watching a lot of shitty '80s action movies, and having him as the henchman. And he carried the episode for me. Again, more voodoo stuff, but it kept me guessing long enough to find out, where's he getting this power? The whole thing with him carrying his daughter's head around was fucked up. Him being in that apartment and giving the lady like that was kind of funny. Like when he's cooking stuff up in his apartment
Yeah.
and the lady's got like some back pain or something. It's like, take some of this and you'll be fine. It's like what?
Yeah.
So I liked him. And I think that's what elevated the episode a little bit for me. I actually gave it 3.5. Like solid monster of the week. Not classic, but solid enough. And the end scene is so cool, with Blind Scully. Is really
Yeah.
great, really intense. But the ending was just kind of like, what? Like, you think
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, we'll just reason with this guy and
I
he could have.
think I think Blind Scully was kind of supposed to be a nod to the end of Silence of the Lambs because it
I was thinking
reminded
the
me a bit
same. I
of
was
that.
about to say that. Yeah, it is kind of not a nod to Silence of the Lambs, and it does have this. There's a good line in there where Mulder's trying to figure out what it is, and he says it could be like a hex curse, and she's like, "Yeah, I agree with you," And then she's like, "Always keep you guessing."
Yeah.
Um, Mulder discovers where dude lives, but dude took the head. Although there is this part at the end, and again, you know, I'm sure the execs knew that the company was leaving, and it's kind of been growing a little bit since season 6. Is this idea that Scully slowly tries to have more of an open mind, and I like that at the end of this episode, she does question whether the dude could have saved his own daughter. Because I think at this point, Scully's kind of she's bought into the idea of the supernatural, like on the spiritual level, because I guess
Right.
it's closer to her spirituality. Because she's seen some stuff like that already, way back from that episode that you didn't
Yes.
like too much with the bowling, at the bowling alley. I kind of dug that one, where she sees the
Yeah.
ghost, and then the one with the doll, the Stephen King episode, where with that little voodoo doll, remember? And then Scully
Yes.
takes that leap of faith and puts the doll in the microwave to kill it. So I think she's
Yeah.
kind of more open to this idea that, hey, if I believe in God, according to her, if she believes in God and angels and all this stuff, it's not that much of a leap to believe that there's these other, kind of spiritual, supernatural forces. So she's a
I
bit more
yeah.
into that.
Yeah, that was actually another thing I didn't like about this episode actually was yeah, that's right. At the ending, Scully theorizes like, well, he could do all this stuff. He has like obviously these herbal healing powers. Like maybe he could have saved his daughter and maybe like the doctor actually was wrong. And
Hmm.
to me that I understand like it works within the context of the X-Files, But
Yes.
unfortunately, when we live in the real world, and we do have people like this from with like very low educations and spiritual beliefs who routinely let themselves die because they refuse treatment for their cancer or their illness, and they do shit the holistic way. Like, I don't think it's really responsible to even encourage that that's a possibility.
No, I get you. Yeah, no, it's not in the real world. It isn't, but it works within the context of the show, and I think it's an interesting character turn for her. Yeah, but I feel you. I got a friend who actually did that. She passed away. She was a Christian Scientist who was
Yeah,
just waiting for the Christian Science to work, but it didn't quite work. There's actually a really good episode of Law and Order about that, where taken straight out of the headlines, where the parents let the kid die
yeah,
because they want to pray over him, and uh, do we prosecute these parents or not for child endangerment, or actually, killing the child in a sense. Um, so yeah, like in the real world, obviously, it's not kind of cool to throw those ideas out there, but I think it works perfectly within the context of the show and the context of Scully just having to open her mind because she is going to be the one that is the open-minded one when we get to season 8 and
right.
Mulder's not there, so they had to slowly but surely take her that direction. But I dug it. I liked it a little bit more than first-person shooter. But now we get to a really weird episode, and Pete was telling me, no, there's a episode written by William B. Davis. I was like, really? And then when I
Yeah,
got to it, I was like, oh, this one. And this episode becomes infamous because there's a bit in it that's a little bit retcon in season 11 of the X Files. But we'll get to that in a bit. This is called In on Me, which is all friends or something like that in
yeah.
French, as a friend. And it premiered on March 19th, 2000 to 11.99 million viewers, written by William B. Davis, and I don't see a director here. Um,
It is Rob Bowman's last episode, actually.
okay, yes. Last episode he directed. Yep. The Smoky Man offers to show Scully the cure for cancer if she travels with him and hides her trip from Mulder. So really weird episode. You know, speaking of, this idea of letting the kids, uh,
Yeah,
you know, uh, just get cured by God, that's how this episode opens because there's a little boy that is suffering from cancer and his parents are just praying over him. But then this light appears one night outside the boy's room, and these men walk towards the window, and the boy is miraculously cured. And Mulder and Scully are given some information about the case, and they go to investigate. Oh, excuse me. Um, but you know, the boy said that this man came to him, said that you don't have to be afraid, and put this little metal piece on his back, and it's just like Scully's, and it's like the one that took away her cancer. So when Scully leaves, she runs into her favorite little piece of shit, okay? Which is CGB Spender, aka the cigarette smoking man. And he tells her that he saved the boy's life from dying and he wants to make right all his wrongs because he's dying. And this whole thing with Cancer Man dying, when did this start? Because I never remember exactly. Is this just the
I
episode
believe
where
it
he died?
started towards the end of season 7. He mentioned that in season 7, he mentioned that he had lung cancer.
Or
Well,
what
no,
season?
actually, no, actually, no, he didn't have lung cancer. There was Jeremiah detected his lung cancer, but I think he had it cured by
Yeah, they had a
these same
cure.
aliens uh, that Jeremiah was part of a tribe with. But no, I think they mentioned somewhere actually near the end of season 6 and early season 7, there are
Yeah,
references to the fact that he's got like a brain condition.
Okay, yeah. So, it's always interesting to me when you have Scully and Cigarette Smoking Man together because they're rarely together and they have such a different dynamic, which is usually more interesting than the Mulder Cigarette Smoking Man dynamic because we've seen it so much. We already kind of know how it's going to play out. He's going to be like, "You bastard!" and
Yeah,
then
exactly.
stare at him like, "You're not going to shoot me because I got information that you want." And Mulder almost shoots him and then he doesn't, and then move on to the next scene. Whereas Scully just doesn't give a shit about this guy. He's like, just get out of my car. Like, I don't want to talk to you. So it's for me, it's more interesting to see that play out and how can he get into Scully's head, and he actually does in this case, um, which is by telling her, look, I got a cure for all disease, and if you don't believe me, call this number. And she, it stays in her head, and she goes to his office, finds out where he works, and he tells her, look, if you want these answers, you got to travel with me. Can't tell anybody. And they go on this road trip. It's the William B. Davis Road Show, and it's
Yeah.
really creepy, man. It's just it's really creepy, and it makes me wonder if William B. Davis didn't just kind of write this for himself to be like, yeah, I just want to be like close to Gillian Anderson for like a whole day, just being creepy and watching her get undressed and stick things in her boobies because she does put that wire right in there. Mm-mm-mm.
Yeah.
But anyway, she so they drive out. He shows her this old lady that's a friend of his that's like 118 years old or something, and you're like, where's this going? And where it's going is that they need to meet this guy named, what was his name? Was it Cobra? I believe it was. But
Yes. Yes.
yes,
He's got the
so
disc.
yeah, he tells her, look, you're gonna meet this guy. He's gonna give you this disc or this information, whatever, and then we're done. Just that she waits for him at dinner, doesn't show up, but then she is slipped a note saying, meet me here the next day. So she goes out on the boat. Meanwhile, though, they're being followed this whole time by this other dude. Okay. And when she does meet Cobra, okay, he passes her the disc, but he's immediately shot. Okay. And this
Hmm.
man is aiming for Scully, but Spender, cigarette smoking man, kills the guy. So she rushes back from to the shore. She was on this little boat, and then Scully gives him. Well, excuse me. Uh, cigarette smoking man gives her the disc, quote unquote, and she takes it to the lone gunman to analyze, but there's nothing on it. Why? Because cigarette smoking man swapped the disc, except P, and then maybe you can help me with this. What I don't get is that at the end he throws it in the water, so I didn't quite get what the whole purpose of this was. The purpose of this exercise was it just so he can prove to himself that he can fuck with Scully? I don't know. Um, but he definitely doesn't cure himself with it, or does he? I don't think he does. Or maybe he copied some of the information and then threw it out. But in any case, that's what goes down. Now, the part that makes this episode a little controversial. Well, first I'll say this. I remember I fell asleep the first time I saw this, not just in first run, but when I did the rerun. But because of the controversy which came out of season 11, where Chris Carter says that this is the episode where Scully gets artificially inseminated by the cigarette smoking man. And I was looking for it. I was like, when did this happen? And then it
She does
happened.
wake up naked, not naked, but undressed in bed. So he
Yes,
undressed her,
exactly.
which
Because
is
they're
a bit, even
they're
without that little extra piece of information. Yeah, that's still kind of creepy.
It's very creepy, because they're driving. She kind of falls asleep, and she wakes up with either
She's
undressed
been
or with
roofied.
yeah. She wakes up in a cabin in Pennsylvania, accusing Spender of drugging her, undressing her, and placing her in a bed. And he's like, "Well, you were knocked out. I just, decided to put some different clothes on you." So real creepy. Again, it gave me William B. Davis just wants to get some Gillian Anderson alone time vibes. It's like, I'm writing this script. I need to see some boobs because we haven't seen that much Scully ass in a long time.
Yeah.
So he definitely uh, took advantage of the opportunity given to him. And good man, because my God, is Gillian Anderson hot, man? Good Lord. Um, but yeah, but it's not really explained. They just kind of, she has a little bit of a hissy fit, but then he does his usual cigarette smoking man bit of like, just get over it. Look, there's bigger fish to fry, and she is already in the thick of it, so she continues on with the plan. But later on, Carter, in season 11, and it pissed off a lot of fans, especially the female fans. They're like, "Oh my God,
And Gillian Anderson too. I think
and
as well.
Gillian Anderson, yeah." It's like, good lord, like they fucked with this woman so much, and it's such a trope to have women have stuff like this happen to women to make them kind of have an interesting arc. Either they're raped, and I remember I read once, it was even in some women complain about this with Black Widow. Like, why did Black Widow have to have some type of backstory in the Marvel movies where she was abused or something? I'm not that deep in the Marvel thing, but apparently it's something that upsets a lot of women, that they notice that female characters, to make them interesting at some point, are either sexually molested or raped. And uh, this is like what Chris Carter did exactly to the Scully character, but it went back to this episode. That being said, I really like this. I made it a point to really pay attention to it. One, because of that, that it was a callback from season 11. I was like, oh, I should really pay attention to this episode because I want to catch this moment. And two, because Pete said, oh yeah, there's an episode by William B. Davis. Like, oh, and when I saw his name, I was like, okay, let me pay extra attention to this episode. Um, the only thing that I didn't get, Pete, and maybe you can, if maybe
Hmm.
you got it, is why did they go through all of that if he just kind of throws the disc in the water? I didn't really catch why he did
Yeah,
that.
yeah. No, I have two theories, and I think the one that makes the most sense is that he just wanted it for himself and wanted to make sure nobody else could have it.
Hmm.
So yeah, he probably just like downloaded it, made a copy of it, and then got rid of the master copy. The only thing wrong with that is that why destroy the original disc then? Because it's still out there, right? It still exists.
Yeah.
Um,
Does he
yeah,
get
the
better?
other sorry, no, I don't believe so.
Yeah,
We don't
so that
see.
doesn't make sense because he doesn't get any
Yeah,
better. He's still got the
uh,
cancer or whatever he's got.
the only other theory I can think of is that he thinks that this is just too dangerous. Like a cure for all disease would lead to like rampant overpopulation. It would create like a huge crisis, and he thinks that, and he's not wrong. If he could cure any disease, that we're already fucked with population. So, I mean, he's not wrong. Maybe he just decided that it's this something like that
But do you
is
think
too
he cares
dangerous.
that much for humanity?
Um, well, that's a very valid point, I guess, but he is kind of like he has been in a position now for like 60 years of dealing with secrets and like what the human race can handle, what it can't. I don't think it's so much that he cares, but I think he likes that power of being able to decide.
Yeah, decide if the Buffalo Bills will win the Super Bowl or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. But I didn't mind the episode though. I thought it was actually pretty decently written for what it's worth.
Yeah, no, I really like this episode. I like mostly for the reasons you said. The Spender Scully interactions were good, but I think it's also because the audience is made to see the smoking man through Scully's eyes, where she's in a position where she's seen everything that we've seen for the last 7 years. And
Hmm.
she knows, number one, this guy's always got an ulterior motive. Number two, he's a habitual liar. Number three, he's a manipulator. But there's always some truth in what he says. And
Yeah.
if this really is like the cure for all diseases, then I kind of have a responsibility to help with that. But I'm going to stay on my toes, right? So
Hmm.
she definitely doesn't trust him, but she knows he's got to be telling a little bit of the truth, and that's why she goes along with it. And there is, somewhere in the back of him, okay, the guy's dying. Maybe he really does want to. And this is another theory, or at least an enhancement of my second theory. He says, well, I want to make up for like all the bad things I did. And maybe in his like smoking man mentality, this is how he does it. He gets rid of like a technology that could potentially destroy the world. So maybe that is his way of atonement. Who knows? But I do like the fact that at the end, when they're there with the disc, with the lone gunman and Mulder, and she's just like, he got me. She goes back to his office. The office was all a fake. He switched the
Hmm.
discs on her, but he did save her life. So, I mean, he conned her big time to get what he wanted. And in the end, she didn't get what she wanted. But, that's the smoking man. He's the ultimate Machiavellian villain.
Exactly. And probably one of his. Well, I haven't seen him much. I don't think he's appeared much since then. I think there was one episode where he was in there. So probably like his last big hurrah, because he kind of lost the script. We kind of lost the plot. It actually is a term, right? With the
Yeah.
cancer after a while. Like, why is he there? Like, what is his. Like, he's totally an unnecessary character after a while, especially after the syndicate uh,
Yes.
die. I mean, again, I haven't. I'm still midway through season 8, so I don't know if he shows up again and does anything really, really
He's in the
interesting.
series. He's in the series finale.
Well, yeah, he's in the series finale where he gets
Yeah.
his face blown off.
Yeah.
Uh, he actually beat Palpatine to the chase there, as far as coming back from unsurmountable face melting odds to appear once again. Uh, but so for me, this is like one, at least from memory, like one of the last hurrahs for like let's have Cancer Man do something. It's because there's nothing like there's the aliens apparently kind of gave up on coming, or they did or they didn't. Like the plot's all over the place as far as these aliens are concerned, which is a shame because I thought that there could still be a lot to be done with the whole alien invasion plot. Uh, but anyway, let's get to the final episode. But I give this one a good rating. Good rating. Definitely a cool episode. And last episode here is Chimera. Let me just go over to it on the X Files wiki page so that I can tell you that it premiered on April 20th, April 2nd, sorry, 2000 to 12.89 million viewers. Written by David Amon and Cliff Bowl has a directed by Cliff Bowl, sorry, has a 7.7 rating on IMDb. And Mulder investigates what appears to be a case of a woman from a small town gone missing, but soon turns out to be a murder by a spirit summoned from the underworld. Oh my god. Scully, meanwhile, must endure an uncomfortable stakeout. Oh yeah, of course. She's out there looking for a prostitute. But all right, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so this is basically a Mulder episode because Gillian Anderson was directing her own episode at this time. So she was pulling actually triple duty. She wrote, directed, and starred in her own episode, which we will unfortunately get to in the near future. Um, so we get an old school Mulder episode where he's basically investigating a serial killer that may or may not be a monster, and it is, uh, pardon me, it's always preceded by the portent of ravens. And it's kind of weird. This episode had kind of like a small town soap opera vibe to it because we get this like weird prelude scene
Mm,
where you have these like this woman who is really on the outs with everyone else. We don't know why. She's got kind of a history or whatever. And then one of the women who's a bitch to her, she gets killed by this monster. So Mulder arrives in town, and he befriends this local couple who basically give him the backstory on everything that's going on, and he becomes kind of close to them. The couple's actually the sheriff. He's getting like this old town
mm,
hospitality. The sheriff is actually pretty open to his theories, and he's like, as long as you help us solve this, you're our guest. And the wife gets a little bit hot for Mulder as well because all women in this show get hot for Mulder. And um, the monster turns out to be targeting very specific people. And it seems to be where the sheriff actually becomes the suspect. It turns out that the victims are people close to the sheriff because he appears to have this ideal marriage, but he's actually fucking around on his wife quite a bit, and this is where the monster is coming from. And ultimately, what we find out from this is that the monster is his wife. And how this is explained is that throughout she's portrayed as like the sweetest thing. She believes she has the perfect marriage. Like she's talking to Mulder about how wonderful it is to be married. Why doesn't he get married? It's great to have kids. She has the perfect life. And she's very aware that her husband's a bastard who's like fucking everything in town. And rather than dealing with that, her rage and disillusionment have taken on literally a life of its own. And she just turns into a monster. And instead of taking it out on her husband, she takes it out on the women that he's fucking.
yes.
Yeah, and because like the monster also has been killing prostitutes, so like it's not just like the affairs. This guy's like got libido for days, man. He's got like a wife, two on the side, and he's banging
Mhm.
hoes. So yeah, I thought this was actually pretty cool, just in the way that it's a nice commentary on how the level of cognitive dissonance people have when they see things that conflict with how they want things to be or how they see things to be originally. How when you have two truths and they don't reconcile, sometimes it really like drives people over the deep end. So I thought that aspect of it was pretty good. And actually, I also really like how they tried to insert Scully into the episode just to let you know, like, she's there. Why isn't she here? Because she's on a stakeout. But her
Yes.
complaints about the stakeout were really funny. Like, those were some good moments. And
Hmm.
especially with Mulder talking to her and the sheriff's wife being like, "Oh, is that a girlfriend you got there?" And Mulder trying to downplay it. Yeah, she has a great line. Mulder, when you find me dead, my desecrated corpse propped up, staring lifelessly through the telescope at drunken frat boys, peeing and vomiting into the gutter, just let me know my last thoughts were of you and how much I'd like to kill you. So she didn't have much in this episode, but she was there and her moments were good. But yeah, I think for season seven standards, this was an above par Monster of the Week episode. Not great, not particularly memorable, but I thought it was still pretty entertaining because it did get me. I didn't really get who it was until almost towards the end.
Exactly. No, it got me too. And this is one that it's one of those that I always like to say. It was a blank. I had forgotten that this episode
Yeah.
existed, but I dug it. I definitely thought the monster was scary. Very good, cool makeup. I called him like the Dusty Crow. He kind of reminded
Yeah.
me of the the Brandon Lee Crow, but just dusty version of him. Some good lines in there when Mulder finally figures out that the sheriff's fucking everybody. He's like, you put the serve back into protect and serve.
Yeah.
uh, and then, yes, and the whole Scully thing. Scully did figure out the case of the prostitute, which is good. But I like when they do a monster. I like monsters that are manifested from people's id or whatever, like whatever's because it is that idea of it brings us to that pop psychology or whatever, this idea that we can we have demons in us, but what if they're so strong that they actually manifest into something real? That's taking it to the X-Files level, but it's
Yeah.
cool. I like that idea. I think it's a cool concept of something being just tearing at us so much that we actually manifest it into a real thing. And the X Files has done a few episodes like that, and most of them are good. I think what it's like the opposite of when they're trying to deal with technology, where they usually just don't get it, or the voodoo stuff. When they do that stuff about what goes through people's minds and the psychology of evil, the psychology of grief, the psychology of pain, they usually do a really decent job. And this was a pretty decent episode. It's a really creepy
Yeah.
Monster of the Week episode. And it keeps you guessing till the end. And the monster is genuinely scary. It's rare that I get a little creeped out by some of the monsters, because you do get desensitized to it after a while. But
Yeah.
cool episode, cool episode. Dug it. And the little raven was nice. So, all right, guys, a little better bunch, because we've been kind of shitting on season 7 for a while. I don't think we've been all that happy with the quality, but this is a nice little bunch here, from episodes 12 to 16. Ex Cops Thief with two E's, Inami, and Chimera. Okay. How come that I only got 4 episodes? I think I erased one here by mistake. There was one in the middle there. What was after X Cops? I forgot.
After X Files was first person shooter.
First person shooter. Well, then let's do it. Let's give our usual watch or skip. I'm giving X Cops a definite watch. Watch it all the
Oh yeah.
way. That's a
Yeah,
great.
for sure. It adds nothing to the overall story, but sometimes a lot of the best episodes are those types of episodes. I wouldn't
Yeah,
put this up there with like some of the other more outrageous comedy episodes, but for what it was and what it was trying to do, I thought it worked great.
that succeeded. First person shooter, guys. Oh man, this is a tough one, because it's. I mean, it's worth it for like this GIF right here, like just
Yeah.
watching them go all nuts. So I'll give it a reluctant watch. Like, it's not my favorite, but I think somebody could get a lot of enjoyment out of it. So I will go objective on this one and say a reluctant watch for first person shooter.
Yeah, I'm gonna say watch largely because it was one of the more memorable episodes of season seven for me. Like, as soon as like the first scene came on, I was like, "Oh, I remember this one." So just for being an episode like that, because there's a lot, like you said, it's like I watched them for the first time, and some of those are still good, but this is one that like I could remember. Oh yeah, this is a good one.
And then after that, we got our episode Thief. I actually dug this one. See, I'm being all weird tonight. See, I didn't like first person shooter, but I'll say watch it because you might dig it. And I did like Thief, but I don't think the casual viewer is going to get much out of it. So I would say skip. So I'm all over the place tonight. So skip Thief, I think.
Yeah, I wasn't that crazy about it either. So, well, I liked it less than you, so definitely skip for me.
And then we got An Ami, which is a definite watch.
Hmm.
Definite. Just got two good actors doing their thing for 40 minutes. Definitely worth it.
Yes, a watch for me as well.
And then we closed out the evening with Camaro, which I go watch, man. That's a creepy little episode. I dug it.
Yep, I go watch on this as well. Good
Yeah.
monster of the week, and this is not one that I was like, oh, I remember this. I'd forgotten this completely as well, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So, guys, we're going to close out the season next week. So, next week is the big episode where we will close out the season. We got 6 episodes. We will then give you our skip watch and our season recap review and also pick our top 8 of the season. So, it's the big one next week. So, please tune in. And then we'll probably take a little break for the holidays and come back next year and let you know. We'll close out the series with season 8, 9, and the movie in 10 and 11. There's a whole lot. But they're shorter seasons, right? Season 9 is short, right? It's like 16 episodes.
I think it's 20.
Is it 20? I thought it was shorter than that. Okay.
Yeah, I can't remember if it aired in two parts, the series finale, because the torrent I have, it has like 19 episodes, 19 and 20, but they have the same title,
Oh,
and you
it
can't.
is 20. No, it is 20. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I thought it was a shorter episode. But yeah, it's got the truth is episode 19, and the truth part 2 is episode 20. So we will see when we get there. All right, then, folks. Thanks for listening as always. Have a great week. We will see you next time. Adios, amigos.
Cheers.